Washington, D.C., Langley. CIA headquarters, analysis floor. Under the cold white fluorescent lights, metal desks and rows of monitors created a flickering unease in the room. Gabriel slung the black tactical bag off his shoulder and placed it on the desk. The dust on it betrayed the harshness of the conflict and how long the night had been. The box he carried with him had sat like a heavy stone in his chest throughout the operation. He slowly set the box down in the middle of the desk. Its steel body was covered in scratches, the edges blackened with burn marks. The strange symbols on the lid didn't look at first glance like the crude insignias of any terrorist organization. They resembled more a specific coordinate system or encrypted satellite codes. Agent Elliot, head of the analysis team, approached the desk. "Where did you find this?" he asked, eyes scanning the box. Gabriel shrugged. "At the source of the signal, but that's not the interesting part." He opened the lid of the box and revealed a small metal capsule inside. Within the capsule was a piece of paper. Elliot took the paper, flattened it, and read the words, "Gabriel, we're watching you." The silence in the room grew heavier. Several analysts turned their gaze to Gabriel, but no one spoke. Everyone knew such a note was more likely left by an inside source than an enemy. Without a flicker of expression, Gabriel took the note back. "File this. Start decrypting the symbols," he said, the calm in his voice masking the tension. Elliot nodded and placed the box into the secure scanning device. As the device worked, digital copies of the symbols appeared on the screens. The computer algorithm quickly produced a result. Parts of the symbols matched frequency codes belonging to the U.S. military satellite systems. Gabriel's eyes narrowed slightly at the news. This was not information only terrorists could have. Someone else was involved, maybe from the inside. On a screen in the corner of the room, thermal images of the building where the box had been found looped. Gabriel took a deep breath. There was a long road ahead before he could learn whose hands had truly found that box. And for the first time, he felt he was being pulled into something much bigger than his mission. After leaving the secure analysis room at Langley, Gabriel went straight up to the high-level operations planning floor. Two armed security guards stood at the door, waiting until the red light beside the metal detector lit up. When the eye scan cleared, the door opened silently, and a low-frequency hum from inside filled his ears. A large round table sat in the room. Along the wall, screens streamed satellite imagery of the Middle East, signal analyses, and live intelligence reports. At the head of the table sat Director Marcus Kane. His rigid posture and graying hair reminded Gabriel of a stern teacher from his memory. "Gabriel," Kane said with a short nod, "the matter of the box is no longer just your mission. This has been elevated to a national security level." In a calm yet alert tone, Gabriel said, "Those symbols match frequency codes from the U.S. satellite system. That's not just a lead for terrorists, it's a lead for someone on the inside too." Kane slid his finger across the map on the table to the northeast. On the screen, a small red circle appeared near a coastal port city in the eastern Mediterranean. "This is your new target. Satellite sweeps have detected data traffic here that shouldn't be there. What's more, the signal from where the box was found may have been fed from here." Gabriel studied the map. "Such a direct connection. Too clean. Almost like someone wants us to find it." Kane didn't break eye contact. "Your job isn't to validate that feeling. Go, bring back evidence. You can request field team support, but the operation is yours." There was a brief silence. Gabriel understood this was no typical mission. If the data traffic truly originated here, then either the enemy was bolder than expected, or this was a trap designed to draw him in. Kane leaned forward slightly. "Remember, Gabriel, in this mission, one wrong step won't just take you out of the field. It will erase you from history." As Gabriel moved away from the table, he felt the small note in his pocket again. "Gabriel, we're watching you." It was time to find out if this note was merely a warning or the key to the door of where he was heading. Leaving Langley, Gabriel headed straight to Operations Depot 6A. The closed metal door bore a blinking red light. After swiping his card and confirming his fingerprint, the door opened slowly. Inside, the air carried a mix of cold, metal, and oil. On the walls were shelves of gear organized by mission type. Light assault rifles, suppressed pistols, optical scopes, thermal cameras, satellite communication devices. Gabriel slowed his steps, pausing a few seconds at each choice. The first item he placed on the table was an HK-416 rifle with a suppressor. Then he took a steel-framed Sig Sauer P226 pistol. He added 2 spare magazines, a defensive knife, an impact-resistant vest, and a light camouflage outfit went into the bag as well. But Gabriel's real focus was on the locked steel cabinet in the corner. Entering his personal access code, he opened the door. Inside was a small armored case. It held only a satellite phone with special encryption protocols and a rarely used EMP signal jammer. This device could temporarily disable enemy communications infrastructure, but also risked cutting off Gabriel's own communications. As he arranged the gear in his bag, a voice came from behind. "You'll be alone on this mission." Gabriel turned to see Agent Miller. Miller was a technical operations specialist at the CIA and usually appeared only before critical missions. "There's something Director Kane didn't tell you," Miller said quietly. "That port area isn't just linked to the data traffic. It's tied to one of our former agents. If you find them there, think twice before reporting it to anyone." Gabriel gave him a brief look. Former agent or a defector? Miller didn't answer, just shrugged. Finishing his preparations, Gabriel walked toward the small C-146A Wolfhounding transport plane assigned to the mission. Stepping onto the rear ramp, the low hum of the engines and gentle vibrations reminded him of the rhythm of field operations he'd known since youth. He strapped in, secured his bag under the seat. The pilot gave a quick hand signal, "Ready for takeoff." Gabriel closed his eyes, resting his hand over the note in his pocket. "Gabriel, we're watching you." Now it was time to uncover the true meaning of those words. When the transport plane's landing gear touched the runway, the metallic reverberations in the cabin rang in Gabriel's mind like a warning. As the plane rolled heavily along the runway, the morning mist over the eastern Mediterranean had yet to lift. This was no ordinary passenger flight. The inside of the plane was mostly empty, aside from a few steel crates, strapped cargo pallets, and 2 silent personnel in the corner. When the cargo door opened, the cold sea air hit him. The only thing he carried was an ordinary-looking backpack, but inside were the classified mission devices he had personally collected from Langley. On the apron, a black SUV with civilian plates awaited him. The driver was one of the CIA's trusted local operatives in the region. As the vehicle moved, the driver glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "Mr. Morgan, are we going straight to the port?" "No," Gabriel said. "We'll meet our contact first." Thanks to his diplomatic immunity, he wasn't stopped at the port entrance or at any of the city's security checkpoints. Officially, he was a U.S. consulate diplomat. Unofficially, he was tasked with finding the source of a chain of cyber and electronic attacks originating in the Mediterranean. Entering Beirut, Gabriel studied the city from the window. It was a place both modern and scarred by the past. War-pocked buildings stood beside newly built skyscrapers. The driver dropped him off at a small... From under the table, Layla slid him a small USB drive. "This is the latest data we pulled from the port systems last night, but there are people who don't want me to get it to you." Gabriel took the drive and quietly slipped it into his pocket. Just then, a fisherman passing by whispered to him, "Don't linger here too long. They're watching you." In that moment, the Deutsch symbols on the box and the "Gabriel, we're watching you" note resurfaced in his mind. He knew now that every step he took in this city was being shadowed. After leaving the cafe with Layla, Gabriel walked down to the coastal road. The late afternoon light cast a golden reflection on the sea, but what caught his attention were the shadowy movements at the corners of the sidewalls. The black-tinted car was still moving through the back street. The driver avoided eye contact. Was obvious alone was obvious enough. Gabriel altered his walking pace to test them, sometimes slowing down, sometimes speeding up. Each time the car matched his rhythm. Turning a corner into a narrow side street, he heard a faint click in the earpiece in his ear. The Langley connection hadn't been opened yet. This was his own passive listening device alerting him. It had picked up an encrypted radio transmission nearby. As he moved down the street, he caught a brief glint on a rooftop out of the corner of his eye. A telescope scope reflection, meaning he was being watched from above as well as on the ground. Calmly, Gabriel changed course toward a fishing harbor, a place crowded with narrow docks, small boats, and reeking trap nets. Perfect for blending in. As he stepped onto the pier, he immediately spotted 3 men in identical black jackets, stationed at different points. They were professionals, keeping their distance, covering each other's lines of sight. He shifted his backpack forward and unzipped it slightly. From inside, he pulled out a micro-drone controller disguised as an old camera. Posing as an amateur tourist, He activated the device and slowly launched the drone. While it recorded the activity around them, Gabriel wore a fake smile and took a few scenery shots. As the drone feed streamed to his screen, one face caught his attention. Those watching him weren't just a local group. "Note, Gabriel, we're watching you" wasn't a warning. It was the first move in a game that had begun in the field. As Gabriel left the harbor, the city preparing for nightfall, he prepared for his own silent war. The city had turned to night, the port area now filled with shadows under dim yellow lights. On the far side of the dock stood a large warehouse, seemingly abandoned. By day, trucks came and went. Now only the footsteps of two patrolling guards broke the stillness. Gabriel waited in a small fishing boat across the water. The engine was off, the vessel swaying gently with the waves. Through his night vision scope, he examined the warehouse. There was no cargo movement at the entrance, but a faint blue light leaked from inside. This was nothing like standard storage activity. He checked his watch. The coordinates Layla had given marked this as the site of the suspicious data transfers. Satellite scans confirmed a temporary antenna system had been set up at the back of the building. It matched exactly the frequency codes from the terminal he had seen earlier. Gabriel slipped silently into the water from the side of the boat. Reaching the shore, he moved like a shadow, unfazed by the weight of his wet clothes. As he approached the warehouse, he pulled out a small signal scanner. It detected a high-intensity encrypted data transmission. Something was definitely happening inside. At the rear door, he saw what looked like a standard lock, but with electronic control. Using a knee-mounted bypass module, he neutralized it in 15 seconds. Cracking the door open, he heard the hum of computer fans and the sound of hard drives loading data. Stepping inside, he found the warehouse had been completely transformed into an operations center. Instead of shelves, there were server towers, cables, and portable generators. 3 people worked feverishly at their screens. Gabriel moved quietly along a side corridor. On a small table sat a familiar metal box, just like the symbol-marked case he had found earlier. But this one had an additional holographic seal. The hologram flashed a short message. "You're late, Gabriel." Suddenly, the lights in the warehouse went out. Only the red emergency lamps began to flash. Heavy footsteps came from the door. 4 people entered, weapons drawn. Gabriel slowly reached for his bag. There was no chance of slipping out unnoticed now. His options were limited: either fight or appear to surrender and keep infiltrating from the inside. He took one step back and drew a deep breath. The darkness cloaking him didn't just cover the warehouse, it covered the true purpose of the operation. And tonight, it was time to face that darkness. As Gabriel's eyes adjusted to the flashing red lights, the faces of the men inside emerged as silhouettes. The barrels of their guns gleamed with the cold glint of metal, aimed directly at him. "You're late, Gabriel." The message still echoed.